Hello and welcome to a new episode of ControlUp Ultimate Labs. My name is Benny Trich and my guest today is Marcel Calef, the creator of the ControlUp ACME Demo Lab. Hey, Marcel,
Hey,
how are you
good
today?
morning. Good. So I'm not the creator. Let's call it I kind of spearhead the effort, but it's definitely a team effort of everybody on the technical teams in
But whenever
ControlUp.
people have a question, they come to you. And hey, introduce yourself. What do you do in ControlUp and what your role is and things like that?
Sure. I'm the lead of the pre-sales engineering team in the US. Been with ControlUp. I think it's about 4 years to the date. So this whole thing, I would say, started a couple of months after I joined ControlUp. We had at the time started building up our US-based personnel and office, and I'm going to use a very new term. We didn't know it back then, but the digital employee experience was shitty when we had to do demos to a lab that it's on the other side of the world. It was normal to have 200 milliseconds of latency on our Citrix session. So we were doing demos all over the US with a lab sitting in our office back in Israel in the development center. And it was just unbearable. So very quickly, we requested the budget and purchased through our IT department hardware.
Mm-hmm.
And then that hardware became the basis of our lab. If you can afford it on your lab, you want to have hardware control of your devices, even if they're not next to you. So, these are our 4 blades, and these are the hard drives on it, and the power supplies and the fans. And I can manage it from here, although I'm not right next to it. So hardware control, if possible, iDRAC, ILO, IPMI. What the hardware is, it's really not relevant. In this case, is a Dell VRTX chassis. It was chosen, again, reality changes, and back in the day, it was sitting on the maintenance closet with the brooms and the cleaning supplies in our office in San Jose. When we moved to the Colo, we eventually figured out we could remove the base and the legs and just lay it down. It's a 9U box. We found over the years of 2 deficiencies. One is it only has PCIe 2, not PCIe 3 slots. So it has expansion slots, but if you know what PCIe or lack of PCIe 3 slots means, it means no vGPU. The other one was we discovered about, I think it was late last year. We did an upgrade on the drives. We brought in new drives. And for some reason, our drive array can take a lot more drives, but you can't resize. So we're ending up with multiple data stores. Again, from a demo perspective is great, but not what we wanted. We wanted to just bulk all that space in one, and we can't. Let me just, if I focus on that and we go to our host, one thing you can always play with, and we tell people to, when you have different clusters for different purposes, you can load as many vCenters as you want and load everything, but sometimes you just don't want to load everything. And you can see here, I have my ARM host cluster, my cluster 1. And if I look at vCenter, there's actually another cluster, which we chose not to load. Okay, so what I see, so the ARM host is there, the backend is not, and the cluster 1 is. And the reason is, in this lab, we, for example, have only 4 hypervisors. But if you look over here, you'll see a lot more. So these are the physical boxes we actually have, 3 VMware and one Pi. We haven't figured out what we're going to do with it, but it's there. And we also have Zen and Hyper-V. So these guys are not real hosts. They're just they're VMs. So the one thing we ended up having at some point is these would be the largest, more heavy consuming machines or VMs in the infrastructure, and I don't want them to see it because it in a demo, you want to try to be as realistic. And remember, I'll probably come back through this on when you're doing a lab, you want that to be as realistic as possible. So in my case, the 4 selected hypervisors are actually pass-through. They're VMs running as hypervisors. So I put them on a host that ControlUp doesn't see.
So you have 4 physical machines, basically, and you only use the 3 ones for the ControlUp infrastructure. Mm-hmm. And the other physical box is where you host all the backend or other hypervisor services.
Just one tip, if you are doing demos, if you're doing presentations, you remember I told you that the ones in blue in my screen are actually VMs?
Yes.
If you don't modify the BIOS settings on the VMs, they will show up as manufacturer, your hypervisor manufacturer, and the server model will be virtual machine instead of.
Yeah.
Now, there are ways on VMware you could just tell it to pass through whatever the hardware is. That's why they look exactly in the hardware specs as their parent machines. Again, try to make it realistic. And sometimes realistic is faking things, making things not show up or show up differently. And sometimes realistic is, yes, it needs to be as real as possible.
Mm-hmm. And I can see you have 384 gigabyte of RAM on each of the physical machines. Yep. What kind of CPUs are there?
Whatever we inherited, but they are 2.3 gig.
Okay.
Yeah, and if I go to the VMs, we should be able to see it here with a little bit more detail. So one thing, if you are building a lab and have the budget for Xeon processors, that's the way to go.
Yeah.
Always, I feel that I always like to go for speed and not core numbers. I think I'm the exception. Most people say go for higher core count, lower speed. I've been bitten way too many times with low speed CPUs.
It's an endless debate. I can tell you, yeah. It's an endless debate. What kind of EUC environments do you have here? Because the design goal was that this lab is the demo lab that you're using for the US pre-sales team. And so you want to show as many use cases as you can. And how did you put that together?
Okay. So as I mentioned earlier, we started with a solid foundation. Again, we're trying to mimic this as much as our customers. We chose vCenter as the platform to run because although every other platform is a valid platform, we do see it out there. As far as the EUC environments, we've tried to keep up with everything we support. So we have our Citrix on-prem CVAD, Citrix Virtual Apps and Desktop farm. Try to keep it, again, best practices, 2 DDCs. They self-load balance themselves, delivery groups where we have the different type. Let me look at the folders, that way we can see the summary. So we have PVS and MCS, just to be able to test both of them.
Wow.
Both, yes.
I like it.
So that's our Citrix Cloud. And we have the ability to look at our cloud connectors, the delivery groups, our Horizon site. And I got to apologize, I don't remember if we did load balance our connection servers yet. And so I think, everything is on one of the servers. And this was actually, I don't know if it was you or somebody, I know it was definitely somebody from the EMEA team. It is, and if you're not careful, you could end up with one of your connection servers on Horizon holding all the load, and the other one there is just for shows. So every client connection in this case is going to my connection server 1, and that's because I didn't put the load balancer in front. A lot of this is on purpose, half done, so that we can show how these things can impact. Yeah, definitely the visibility with ControlUp is amazing, regardless of the platform, right? We're looking here at Citrix, VMware, and then we also have our Azure Virtual Desktops.
Okay.
Set up over here. Yep. And let me focus there, switch to those machines. And we are doing a lot of integrations, but in the meantime, our integration team has already provided a lot of script actions to manage and interact with the back end Azure Virtual Desktop Pool settings. Keep your BIOSes updated. Yes, that's an important one. We learned that, I think it was 2019 was the year of the BIOS updates. So that's an important thing to try to keep it up to date. I know I probably do need to do an update. I also need to bump up my hypervisors. But what you find is that when things are working, you don't touch, right? So 193 days since the last time we touched those. Try to use, if you're ever going to show screens, think of what you're going to call it. So if this is not going to become your next company's Active Directory domain, make sure that you use something that speaks to people. So you don't see here control, because I don't want you to think that this is ControlUp users. You got to have your own home lab. So I think that's part of what you're doing this. And a home lab can have, no home labs look alike. Be ready to, blow it all up and create it all again just because you want to try something different. I think we've all done it, right?
Okay. Have a great day.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Bye-bye.